PTE Help, Test 17 for Retell Lecture and Summarize Spoken Text. Subscribe to PTA Help for the real exam material.
So let's first talk about the explicit memory system. This is what we normally refer to as everyday memory. It's verbal and it's conscious. We can think about something that's happened to us and recall many of the details, and we can sequence the experience. Another quality or attribute of explicit memory system is that it organizes our past experiences. It helps us to recreate a personal history of ourselves. It has a timeline. We can, sequence different aspects of whatever that experience was. And then the last thing I'll say about explicit memory system is that it begins to develop around 18 months. And it's an essential part of the brain that comes online at about 18 months and fully matures at around 5 years of age. But that hippocampus is an essential piece of helping us to sequence information and to remember things. So whenever we're telling somebody a story, we're accessing our explicit memory system. If I'm sharing a time at Christmas time when I was young, or a camping trip I went on, or a fishing trip I went on, these are examples of the explicit memory system. So let's now turn our attention to the implicit memory system. The best way to explain the implicit memory system is anything that we repeat over and over again becomes part of the implicit memory system, whether it's good or bad. So, for example, playing certain sports, you develop certain habits, you become good at it, that becomes second nature to you. Riding a bike, playing a musical instrument, just about any everyday activity that you repeat over and over again becomes part of this implicit memory system.
PTA Help, Test 17. Sample 90 Skulls Response. This lecture highlights the difference between the explicit and implicit memory and their functions. The role of explicit memory is normally referred to everyday memory, where we recall, recreate and organize the sequence of the past experiences and personal history. Different aspects are stored in this essential part of the brain, which matures till 5 years of age. Conversely, implicit memory exhibits our daily activities that we repeatedly carry out, like playing sports, musical instruments, etc., which could be either good or bad. PTA Help, Test 17 for Retell Lecture and Summarize Spoken Text. Subscribe to PTA Help for the real exam material.
PTE Help, Test 17. Sample 90 scores answer. This conversation highlights the concern over the overfishing. Apparently, some decades ago, fishermen used to collect abundance of fish stock from the sea. But overfishing and overpopulation have caused a drastic decline in it now. Admittedly, open access to the fishing has depleted the habitat of some fishes as many people go for hunting the same resource. Another contributing factor is the weak enforcement of the fisheries regulations that cause illegalities.
PTA Help, Test 17 for Retell lecture and summarize spoken text. Subscribe to PTA Help for the real exam material.
So to determine where an earthquake happened within the Earth, you need to define where the patch was on a fault within the Earth that moved to generate that earthquake. So earthquakes happen in the Earth rather than on the surface of the Earth. The earthquake might be a shallow earthquake, but it's still within the Earth, not on the surface. What we often hear spoken of about the location of an earthquake is the epicenter. And this is defined as the place on Earth's surface which is directly above the focus or the area that moved during the earthquake. So for example, the 1989 World Series earthquake in the Bay Area is officially called the Loma Prieta earthquake because there's a geographic location, Loma Prieta, which is directly above where that earthquake occurred. To accurately determine then, tell somebody where an earthquake happened, you have to tell them the epicenter and then also the depth within the Earth where that earthquake occurred. That defines uniquely then the location, the patch of a fault that moved to generate that earthquake.
PTA Help, Test 17. Sample 90 skulls response. As per the scientific studies, in order to determine the location of the earthquake, you need to define the patch location, where it generated. Factually, the earthquake doesn't occur on the Earth's surface, rather it happens inside it. Epicenter is defined as the place on the Earth, right above the focus area, that moved during the earthquake. To precisely state the site, both the placement of the epicenter and depth within the Earth are needed to define the patch that caused the activity.